Shalom. My name is MOREH ISHIYAH Yisrael from the House of Israel in Cincinnati, Ohio, 2330 Kemper Lane, bringing to you in 40 minutes or less. In 40 minutes or less, I will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt the word of Yahweh. Who is this Yahweh? Yahweh is the creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein. Yahweh is the Elohim of our fathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yisrael, whom you may know as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yahweh is our judge. Yahweh is our lawgiver. Yahweh is our king, who will save us. Shalom and praise the mighty Yah. We welcome you again on our program, 40 minutes or less. Today we will be dealing with, in this lesson number 18, the Old Testament versus the New Testament. We will have 7 different parts of the Old Testament versus the New Testament, because we will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that not only these are 2 different books altogether, but the New Testament is a book of deceit, a book that totally contradicts the word of Yahweh, which is in the Old Testament, or what you know of as the Holy Scriptures. And not only that, we will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the New Testament contradicts itself. It has nothing at all to do with the Old Testament. So in our part 1 series of the Old Testament versus the New Testament, we will deal with the subject matter of the Messiah. According to the New Testament, the one that they call Jesus, Christ, is the Messiah, which just simply means anointed one, the chosen one. Not only he is the Messiah of the Christian community, according to the New Testament, he's the Messiah of the world. And this is total deceit. What I will prove, dealing with the Old Testament versus the New Testament, that Yahweh not only prophesied in the Old Testament who the Messiah would be, but he prophesied about him by name. And not only he prophesied about him by name, but he also prophesied what the Messiah was to do when he comes. So let's get into these scriptures, because as I stated before, we will do this in 40 minutes or less. For it don't take 40 minutes to prove the word of Yahweh. Typically, it's less. But let us read. I will bring us 10 different points. The first point is in the book of Genesis 49. In the book of Genesis 49, this is what it says, and we're going to start at the 8th verse. It says, Yehuda, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy head shall be in the neck of thy enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Yehuda is a lion's whelp from the prey, my son. Thou art gone up. He stooped down. He cast as a lion and as an old lion. Who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Yehuda, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. And unto him shall be the gathering of the people be, binding his foal unto the vine, his ass coat unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine and his clothes in the blood of grapes. And we have an opportunity to break all this down. But it says, until Shiloh come. And who is Shiloh? Well, Shiloh is not just a place, but Shiloh is a person that the Almighty prophesied that will come from Yehuda. Someone that will be praised. People will bow down to him. And he will be the lawgiver. And none of these things happened with the so-called Christ of the New Testament. None of these things. Matter of fact, the word Shiloh actually means peace and security. And Christ never brought peace, never brought security. As a matter of fact, he stated himself that he didn't even come to bring peace. He came to bring a sword. So how can one believe in someone that never even thought to come to fulfill the prophecy of the Messiah, because he never even came to bring peace? Furthermore, in the book of Genesis 29, as I stated before, the Messiah is one that would be praised. Praised for what? For his work. For the things that he would fulfill. And one of the things that he was prophesied to fulfill is to bring peace back to the earth and to secure and save his people. In the book of Genesis, the 29th chapter, this is what it says in the 35th verse, when Yehuda was actually born. And this is what it says. And she conceived again and bore a son. And she said, now will I praise Yahweh. Therefore, she called his name Yehuda and left bearing. In other words, Yehuda actually means praise. No wonder the Messiah will come from Yehuda, because he's someone that will be praised. And of course, not just someone who will be praised, he also is prophesied to be king. And you'll read this in the book of Jeremiah, the 23rd chapter. And watch what this says. And we're talking about the Old Testament versus the New Testament, and why? Because it is the New Testament that teach that the Messiah is someone other than what we're going to reveal in the Holy Scriptures, which lets you know these are two different books altogether, as you're going to see in this series. The first thing we're trying to let people know is two different Messiahs altogether. And to believe in a Messiah that was never mentioned out of the mouth of Yahweh is total deceit. And our people have been deceived. In Jeremiah 23, this is what it says, starting at the first verse. Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, says Yahweh. Therefore, thus says Yah Elohim of Israel against the pastors that feed my people. Ye have scattered my flock, driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doing, says Yahweh. And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the countries whither I've driven them, will bring them again to their folds. They shall be a fruitful and increase. And I will set up shepherds over them which shall feed them. And I may add, this is not, if they just put shepherds in English. And I'm going to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, the Almighty is not going to set up no shepherds, but he will set up one shepherd. So this really should say, and I will set up a shepherd over them, which shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, neither shall they be lacking, said Yahweh. Behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that I will raise David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days, Yehudah shall be saved. And that's why I said the Messiah is coming from Yehudah. It says Yehudah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely, because this Messiah is bringing security and peace. And this is the name whereby he shall be called Yahweh, our righteousness. Sigdit Yanu. That's what it means. Yahweh, our righteousness. Fourth verse, or the fourth thing, Jeremiah 30. Turn there. So not only he's called Shiloh, which means peace and security, but he was born for praise, because that's what Yehudah actually means. It means praise. And this is where the Messiah is coming out of, the tribe of Yehudah. And Christ didn't come out of no tribe of Yehudah. I know they want you to believe that. In one breath, they'll tell you he came from the seed of David. But then in the very next breath, they'll tell you he came straight from the Most High. He was a virgin birth. The Almighty Spirit entered into her and impregnated her. This is total deceit. Total deceit. Either you came from Yehudah or you didn't. And we know that he didn't. Jeremiah 30. This is what it says in verse 8 and 9. For it shall come to pass in that day, says Yahweh of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, will burst thy bonds. Strangers shall no more serve themselves of him, but they shall serve Yahweh their Elohim, and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. So Jeremiah, in this particular passage, is emphatically letting us know that this king is someone that was king before, someone that was here before, someone who died and have to be raised up. They want you to believe Christ was raised up to do this. And Christ didn't do nothing when he was raised up. As a matter of fact, before he died, he didn't do anything but preach. But David fought the wars of Yahweh. David had a house built unto Yahweh's name. David actually means beloved of Yahweh. David, according to the scriptures, was a man after Yahweh's own heart and was perfect. And David is the one that was prophesied to be raised up, to be served, and to be king. The fifth thing in the book of Isaiah, the 11th chapter. Because not only he will fulfill those things, watch what it says here in the book of Isaiah, the 11th chapter, the very first verse. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. So it's not talking about the branch and the rod of David. It's talking about a rod out of the stem of Jesse. And who is Jesse? Jesse is David's father. And who you think was that root, that rod? Yes, David. Also in the same Isaiah, the 11th chapter, it lets you know in the 10th and 11th verse what we've been trying to let you know since Genesis 49. And watch what it says in the 10th and 11th verse of Isaiah, the 11th chapter. And in that day, there shall be a root of Jesse, not David, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh shall set his hand again a second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, from Egypt, from Pathros, from Cush, from Elam, and from Shinar, from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. The children of Israel, the tribe of Yehudah, are scattered all over the earth. They are the only people that are not in their homeland today. The only people who has been exiled and never returned. And who is the Almighty charging to bring them back home to him? It is the Messiah, whose name is David. He's this deal. He's this rod of Jesse. And not just there, the sixth thing. Because I'm going to show you 10 different scriptures that all talk about David. And none of them will talk about Christ. Christ's name was never, ever even mentioned out of the mouth of Yahweh. Yahweh never had a conversation with this man Christ. As a matter of fact, Yahweh never had a conversation with nobody in the New Testament. Absolutely nobody. His word is void when it comes to the New Testament. So everyone believing in this New Testament, talking about the Messiah, is talking total deceit and lies. The sixth thing in the book of Hosea, the 3rd chapter. Hosea 3. And let's see what this says. Let's see if this agrees what we've been saying all along. In the book of Hosea, the 3rd chapter, the 4th verse, for the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king. And we don't have a king today, people. Without a prince. We don't even have a prince today. Without a sacrifice. There's no sacrifice today. Without an image, without an ephod, without a teraphim. In other words, we have nothing at all that will denote us as a people. They just look at us as just a bunch of slaves, a bunch of Negroes that's scattered all over the earth, that has no language, that has no history, and no trace of our history. Well, they're partly right, because the Almighty said will abide many things, many days, without the various things that makes you a people. But watch the 5th verse. Afterwards shall the children of Israel return. Return where? Unto the Most High. And seek Yahweh their Elohim in David, not Christ, not the son of David, but David their king. And shall fear Yahweh in his goodness in the latter days, which is the last days. And brothers and sisters, make no mistake about it, we're in the last days. We're in the last days. The 7th scripture is in the book of Ezekiel, the 37th chapter. And why would we seek Yahweh in David, but somebody else is the Messiah? What kind of sense does that make? Well, it don't make sense at all. That's how you know the New Testament is total deceit. And this is just part 1. In the book of Ezekiel 37, this is what it says, starting at the 21st verse. Let me start so you can really, really understand this. I'm going to start at the 18th verse. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by these? Say unto them, thus says Yah Elohim, behold, I will take the stick of yourself, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel their fellows, and will put them with him, even the stick of Yehudah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. And as you can see here, the stick of Yehudah, as well as the stick of Yosef and his companions. And these sticks must become one. And the only people that know about these sticks are the children of Israel. The only one that Yahweh gave his word to. And watch what it says. And the sticks whereon thou ridest shall be in thy hand before their eyes. And say unto them, thus is Yah Elohim, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whether they be gone, and that's where we're at, and will gather them on every side, bring them into their own land, and I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their Elohim. And David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. That's what I told you. Not two shepherds, not a bunch of shepherds, but just one. They shall also walk in my judgments, observe my statutes, and do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I've given unto Yaakov, my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they, their children, forever. And my servant David will be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the heathen shall know that I, Yah, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. The eighth scripture, Ezekiel 34. And watch what this says. In the book of Ezekiel 34, verse 22. And this is what it says. Therefore will I save my flock, and they shall no more be a prey, and I will judge between cattle and cattle. The Messiah is all about saving the flock of Yahweh, securing them, saving them, to bring them back as the praise of the whole entire earth. Watch what it says, 23rd verse. And I will set up one shepherd over them, one shepherd again, and he shall feed them. Even my servant David, he shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd. And I, Yahweh, will be their Elohim. And my servant David, a prince among them, I, Yahweh, have spoken it. And Yahweh has never spoken anything else other than this to anyone else, for anyone to believe there's a Messiah other than David. David is the prince. David is the king. David is the shepherd. David will be a priest. And also, in the ninth thing, Isaiah, the 9th chapter. You'll never read these things in any other book, for they don't exist in any other book but the book of Yahweh. In the book of Isaiah, the 9th chapter, verse 6 and 7, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty Elohim, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David, upon his kingdom. Whose kingdom? David. Whose throne? David. To order it, to establish it with judgment, with justice, from henceforth even forever. The zeal of Yahweh of hosts will perform this. All about David. And the last scripture, in the book of Psalm 89. This is what is said about David and no one else. David is this Messiah. This is why we're talking about the Old Testament versus the New Testament. Because the New Testament will have you believe something contrary to this truth. In the book of Psalms 89, and we don't even have to read much in this. And we're going to start reading at the 19th verse. It says, Then thou spakest in vision to thy Holy One, and says, I've laid help upon one that is mighty. I've exalted one chosen out of the people. I found David, my servant. With my holy oil have I anointed him, with whom my hand shall be established. My arm also shall strengthen him. The enemy shall not exact upon him, nor the son of wickedness afflict him. And I will beat down his foes before his face, plague them that hate him. But my faithfulness, my mercy shall be with him, and in my name shall his horn be exalted. I will set his hand also in the sea, his right hand in the rivers. He shall cry unto me, Thou art my Father, my Elohim, and the rock of my salvation. Also I will make him my firstborn, higher than the kings of the earth. My mercy will I keep for him forevermore, and my covenant shall stand fast with him. This is David. And anytime anyone is speaking about the Messiah, the anointed one of Yahweh, the one who would return to the earth to bring about everlasting peace, the one who would save his people, the house of Yehudah and the children of Israel, and put them back in the place that Yahweh intended them to be in, above all the nations on the face of the earth. There's only one name that can be mentioned according to the Holy Scriptures, or what you know of as the Old Testament. That name is David. And until our next program, Yahweh love you, and so do I. Shalom.